In this episode, we're going to look at GoMock. Hi, I'm Mark Bradley, and welcome to Testing All the Things, a screencast in which we use live coding to demonstrate different types of testing tools and techniques. In the last few videos, we've looked at the different types of test double that are available for us to use. We hand-coded each type of test double to clearly show how they can be used. In this video, we're going to use a test double framework called GoMock to replace our hand-coded test doubles with ones generated for us. Let's look at the code. In the last few videos, we created a number of different types of test double. We created stubs and spies, mocks and fakes, and we hand-coded each of those to demonstrate the properties of each different type of test double and how we can apply them to our tests. In this video, we're going to use GoMock to replace the hand-coded test doubles with ones generated for us. GoMock comes with a command line interface tool that can generate a mock implementation of any interface it is given. Let's first look at how we can create a mock of our applicant interface. If we go to the terminal, we can run the mockgen. We first give it a destination where we want our mocks to be stored. So dash dash and destination equals, and we're going to put it in a folder called mocks, and we're going to create a mock of our applicant interface, so we'll put it in an applicant file. Go. Now I need to specify the package that where my applicant will be found and the interface that I want to mock. So it's my driving license package. Put that in there. There we go. And we want to mock the applicant. So if I run this, there we go, and if we open the project, we can see that a mocks folder has appeared with an applicant file in it. We look in the applicant file, we've got our mock applicant, we've got a new mock applicant function that allows us to create an instance of our test double, and then a number of functions that we can call to set it up. Okay, now obviously we have a number of different interfaces we want to mock, so having to run this command for each of them will be a bit tedious, and remembering each of them that needs to be run we could quite easily miss one. So we could create a bash file or a make target to hold all of the different interfaces we want to generate mocks for, or we could put the generation setup into our code. To do this, we can use a comment with GoGenerate in it, like so. You must not put a space between the forward slashes and the go, like this. And then if we put the command line call here, there we go. So exactly the same setup. And then if we remove our mocks folder, so delete that, so no mocks. And now instead of running mockgen, we can run GoGenerate, and like so. We go here, our mocks folder is back, and our applicant test double has been recreated. This is a much easier way to manage your mocks. It also means I'm not a fan of committing generated code, so this is a really nice way that with a very simple short command, you can regenerate all of your mocks in your testing environment. Let's also create a test double of our logger. So we'll put that one into logger. And one more. And we will put that into generator, like so. Now when we call GoGenerate, we now have a test double for each of our interfaces that our application requires. So now we can make a start with replacing our hand-coded test doubles with the generated test doubles. We're going to do this refactor of the test code one test at a time. So we'll start with our underage applicant test. So if we take out, so first of all we have our stub, our underage applicant. So let's replace that. A equals new applicant mock. Okay, and we can see here that the new mock applicant function takes a mock controller. So we need to create an instance of that. So new mock controller. And we have to pass this an instance of the test. There we go. So, and now we can pass this into our controller, into our test double. Okay. As part of your mock setup, you might put expectations that you require to be asserted upon after the code under test has run. So what you need to do is after the test has run, you need to ensure the controller is finished. So you can do that by deferring the finish function to the end of the function. And let's just we now have a test double of our applicant. Now we need to set it up. We can go a dot. So it obviously has the functions of the interface available to it here, but it also has this expect function. If we call expect, then we can start accessing the mock function. So we want is over 18, return, so this is underage, so it needs to return false. By their nature, test double frameworks can't create things like stubs or fakes. So we're going to just replace our stubs and fakes with mocks. We will still look at using the spying functionality when it comes to our logger. Okay, so that's the setup of our underage applicant. We now have that, and that is passed into the generate function. So hopefully, if we run the tests, okay, we have a failure. Why do we have a failure? Underage applicant, unexpected call to holds license. Let's look at our code. Oh, holds license is the first one. That's odd, but anyway, that's fine. So we can set up the expectation. So a dot expect a call to holds license, return false. Let's save that. And then we have it. So our underage applicant now not needed, so that can go away. There we go. Okay, so we have replaced one line of code at the moment with 3 lines of code here. But what we can do now, I think, if we find out our underage applicant, here we go, underage applicant here. So this struct is now not used. This stub that we created is not used. So although we added 2 extra lines in our test above, we can remove those lines there and make our code a lot shorter here. There we go. So there's our underage applicant setup. So we can then replace our fake random generator. Now at this point, we don't need to set anything up for this test double because it's not going to be used. So we just can do r equals new random. Okay. Yeah, we need to pass the controller in. And that's enough now. We should run that test and see if it works. It does. Okay. Okay. And now we can move on to our spy logger. We can do L is new mock logger. There we go. So we have a new mock logger. Pass the controller in again. So we want to know the call count and the last message. That's our assertions here. So we can do L dot expect log stuff. Now we know this takes a string. So we can say, take this, underage. And times 1. Okay. Now let's run that test and see what we get. Okay, so that's failing. That's failing because we were expecting just the word underage. So it's a bit more tricky to do, not matching the full, just checking some of the content. So we'll just add that in fact we want it to say the full string. Have a look at that. Now test pass. So if we tidy up our test a bit. So this test is now finished. All of our hand-coded test doubles have been replaced with generated ones from GoMock. And we're setting up the controller at the start, setting up each of our test doubles, and we make our assertions at the end. So let's move on to our second test. Okay, so now we've got our license holder applicant to replace. So let's do that first. So A is, let's copy paste from the top, the first bit. Okay, now we know it's not going to get to the age because the license check is first, and then we're going to return true. There we go. So that should continue to work. We'll just run that, and that works fine. Okay, so now we'll look at replacing our fake random generator. So let's copy this and bring it down here. Okay, so we'll run that test again, make sure it all works. And we're still green. And now the next thing we need to do is we need to replace our spy logger. So we'll just copy paste again. We'll take these 2 lines from up above. Bring them in to replace here. Apart from our message, it's going to change. So it's now going to be this. Just copy this across. Okay. Run our test. So it's failed because I forgot to remove this stuff here. So that can go. Save. Run it. Okay, so we're back to green. So we can do a bit of a tidy up now. Now we know that our license holder test double at the bottom can go. Where is it? Valid applicant. Here we go. License holder not being used. So all of these now disappear. So, okay, run that again, just make sure we're green, and we are. So let's go back up to the top. Now, I was doing quite a lot of copying and pasting during those two tests. So let's see if we can improve these two tests a little bit and the setup so they're a bit cleaner. Remove that line as well. Okay, so we're going to want, first of all, the easiest thing we can do is we can move the setting up of the GoMock controller out to a setup function. So let's do that. So we have controller. Controller is a GoMock controller, and then we can add a testify setup for the driving license suite, and in there we can bring this in. Okay, so we don't need that anymore. Oh, that returns it. So pointer. There we go. So we can also get rid of this one. I hope those tests will still pass. They do. Great. But we've still got this defer at the top of each of our tests here, so we want to remove that next, and we can do that by using a teardown. So we will bring in a testify teardown for the driving license suite, and we will bring in, don't need to defer anymore, so that's what's going to happen in this function. There we go, and we can delete this line, save. Okay, so what happens with the setup function is that's called before each of the test functions is run, and the teardown function is called after every test has just finished. So if we test that out, and that works really nicely, our test is still passing. But I think there's still some more tidy up we can do. We can move our applicant out, I think. So we can do var a is applicant go mock applicant. Let's just check, is that a pointer? Is, yeah. Pointer. Then we can move this out like so. Okay. And we can do the same for our logger. Var L pointer to mock log like so. And we take this line out, put it in here. And finally, we've got the random number generator. So we take this one out. Put it here. And var R pointer to our mock random number generator. There we go. Lovely. So now our setup is nice and simple. It's just setting up each of the test doubles with no configuration because we want to configure that per test. And our tests have become a lot smaller and a lot easier to see what's going on. So we can take out that, we can take out that, and we can take out that. So now you can see just how small our tests are becoming. So if we run those to make sure they're still passing, they are. So there's one more thing we can actually now we're using test doubles, we can do is we can move the construction of our struct that's under test up into our setup function because we're passing in pointers of these test doubles, it means we can modify them and then just call the function we want to run. So we're just reducing the lines of code in our test down to the bare minimum of what's going to happen. So if we take that out, and so there we go, var lg is, what do we call it? It's a nice, I can't see it. What is it? There we go, a number generator. There we go. Need that. That line goes. This function is now tiny. Again, we can remove this here, making a really nice small test function. So we'll run that and make sure that works. Still working, which is brilliant. Obviously, we haven't taken it out of the test below. We'll need to do that later. So now we're on to license generation. Now we need to create a valid applicant. So we'll do that first. Keep that there for reference because we're going to need some of the things. So a.expect hold license returns false. A.expect is over 17 to return true. And now we need to set up the actual values we're going to use really in this. So we need a to expect the get initials to return mdb. Nope, no, wrong place. Return mdb. Then we expect the get date of birth to return this. Okay. So the logger's not used, so there's absolutely no need now to do any setup for that. But the fake random generator is, so we need to set that up. So r.expect get random numbers, and it should return some zeros. Okay. Oh no, wrong place. Return x. So now we could say that this should be given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we can use GoMock.any. So whatever it's given, it returns 5. And that will do for this test. So if we take out the construction, take out this, save that, and we'll just run that test and see if it passes. It does, so that the refactor of that test is now complete. And then, yeah, so we can replace this. So we've said any, but we've just double checked. It's going to be called with 5 as well. And it is, and it works. So because we've replaced a fake with a mock, we're probably better off checking that we're using the number generator exactly how we expect it to, because I could just return 1, or 2, because it doesn't matter really, because we're not testing the functionality of this. We just want to make sure that whatever's returned is added on to the end of our license number. But it's good to keep it as real as possible. So we'll keep it with the same setup as our fake. Just check that worked. It does. Okay. So now we're on to our last test. So do a bit of copying and pasting. Okay. So the same. We'll double check. That's our applicant setup. I'm not going to use the spy logger. It was just there. It needs to be passed into the constructor. We don't need that anymore, so that can go. But we do need to do the fake rand. So copy this line, So we know now it's going to be called, and it should be given 6. So we're going to return 6 zeros. So let's run the test. And all the tests are passing. So now we've got this opportunity here. So valid applicant is now not used. So all that can go. The fake random generator is not used, so that can go. And the spy log is also not used, so that can go. There we go. So now if we go back and look at our tests have slightly increased in size. We've got, if we look at this one, we've got a little bit more setup, but not too much really, because we managed to take a lot of the setup that wasn't even needed out. So now the test is a lot clearer on the things we're looking at. We're just looking at the applicant and what it returns for these 2 values, and we're just looking at the logger and what it's given here. So yeah, so one of the things that might be worth demonstrating is, so we said times 1 here. So if we set this up to 2, this test should now fail, because there we go. We were expecting 2, but we only got it called once. But if we go back and we forget to finish, the test passes. So it's really important you remember to call the finish function on the controller, so that if you've got tests like this where you want to know exactly what's called and how many times, you need to finish off. So that's the end of a reasonably short refactor of our tests, replacing our hand-coded test doubles with test doubles generated by GoMock. So all we had to do was set up GoMock to generate the different test doubles we needed for each of our interfaces, and then we just started using them over here. As I said before, I'm not really a fan of committing generated code like this, so I really like this kind of use of GoGenerate to generate my mocks, and they can be generated every time that the tests are run, so they don't need to be kept. The code doesn't need to be kept. We can just generate our mocks as we need them, and it helps keep our code in our repository a little bit cleaner. I hope this video has been useful and you give GoMock a try. I'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching this episode of Testing All the Things. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please rate and review the video and subscribe to the channel. If you did not and you have any feedback, please leave a comment in the comment section of the video or contact me on Twitter @Bradle.